Nick, welcome to Tipsy Chronicles. How are you, sir?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule
Of course.
to join us and share some fun stories.
Of course. Happy to.
So you're in the industry,
Mm-hmm.
and how long have you
So,
been doing that?
Shit. I guess I started right at the age of 21, and I'm 42 now, so that's pretty easy math. 21 years.
Yeah. Well, happy birthday.
Hey, yeah, thanks. Not till July, so 43, so 22 years almost.
Damn,
Mm-hmm.
that's a good run.
Yeah,
Have you enjoyed most of it?
for the most part.
Yeah.
That's kind of the name of the game. That's why people get into it, other than, you're going to make, at least back in the day, you're going to walk out with a load of cash.
Right.
But it's very much, I like people, and I like talking, and I like being around that scene.
Yeah.
So yeah, fun is kind of the idea with a lot of it. Too much fun, I think, sometimes, which I think is kind of the theme of what you've got going here.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I moved to Austin 2010 with the idea of, all right, I'm getting too old for this. It's time to figure something else out and kind of make this move to get out of my comfort bubble in my hometown and in the service industry and get out of all that, and ended up creating a whole new comfort bubble. And here I am still, albeit in a managerial role now, but yeah, I enjoy it.
Good. So do you like managing more than bartending?
Anymore, yeah. I fully believe that there are a few exceptions to this, but like I've mentioned my age a couple times already, but I don't think that 42 is that old.
No.
However, I'm not fishing for compliments. If you disagree, that's totally fine. But in the world of bartending, it's absolutely ancient. And I've seen it. I've seen people try to keep bartending and keep bartending and keep bartending, and little by little it's just like, oh, and it's hard to do. And some people can create their little niche group, and they can work in the same bar for the rest of their life, and everybody there loves them. But if you don't want to do that, and you want to like stay in the good spots, and you want to make the good money, like,
Yeah.
you do it while you're young.
Yeah. I think it depends on basically what you're saying is where you are. And if you're at like a neighborhood dive bar or something like that, and you're in your 60s, but everyone already knows you and it's the thing, then it all works for you. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
We used to go to this place in Tucson, Arizona, where this absolutely ancient woman worked, and they loved her there. This bar had been around forever. It's just a hole in the wall, no windows in the whole place. And just like the cheapest drink specials. All of these things I mentioned to make the point that it's divey bar.
Yeah.
And this old woman worked there, and she really hated the word fuck. Hated it. And they loved her so much there that in this divey bar, you were not allowed to say that while she was there.
Amazing.
You could get kicked out.
For that word.
If she was gone, they didn't give a shit. But if you said it, and after her shift, she would sit and drink at the bar, and she sat and drank right by the shuffleboard table. So it was near impossible.
Yeah, you're bound to say fuck shuffleboard.
Absolutely, because I'm not good at shuffleboard. And so she would park right there, and I don't remember her name. Let's say Daisy, because I'm ageist apparently. You would say it, and they'd give you a couple tries, and they would say like, "Hey, Miss Daisy doesn't appreciate that kind of talk. If you continue to say that, you're gonna," and they'd give you a few tries, and it was really great, really respectful. But I think that's very few and far between. You're not going to find that kind of. But also, like, I'm on a tangent at this point, but like also like, I'm a dad, and my wife is a very responsible person. She is in no way going to put up with me working a bar shift and then spending the rest of the night at that bar.
Right.
So for all these reasons, I feel like if that works for you, that's awesome, and I would never look down on it.
Right.
But looking inward, I felt the clock ticking. So honestly, management was the way to go in that I was having a kid, so I need insurance. Bartenders famously don't
Right.
have any. I needed insurance. I needed salary. I needed stability.
Right. Yeah.
And what I ended up realizing is that I can still be passionate about the stuff I am within the service industry, and be able to just help other people. And I don't actually have any tables, and I don't actually have any like a checkout.
Yeah.
And I can walk as soon as I'm done helping them. I can walk away from that situation.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, I like it for the most part. You know, still the hours are later than normal jobs, but it's not like when I was working dive bars that closed at 2.
Right.
You know.
And you get out at 3 or 4 or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
If I get out at 3, something's gone wrong.
Yeah, because it's a restaurant.
It's happened
for you,
once
right?
or twice. And I'm
This
like,
is more.
why are you still there? And like, I've been working on all this stuff.
Yeah, because you're in the restaurant industry more so than the bar industry, right?
Right. My specific role leans toward the bar part of it.
Okay.
So I'm able to kind of keep in that part.
Yeah.
I'm I'm their bar guy. But yes, it is a restaurant, so it's not bar. As soon as the kitchen closes, so does the bar.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that, man.
No, I prefer it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've actually, funny we bring up someone in their 60s. I have a friend who's worked at this same bar for over 30 years. And the ownership has changed a little bit. Somebody bought in. And then there's been a brand new general manager who has then hired a bar manager who has taken my friend off of the bar and put him on the door. And this guy has been there since day one.
Oh.
Like, he comes with the building, basically, is what it comes down to.
Right, but like who's I'm sorry, I was going to try to make a joke of it, but really your friend who's 60 is an intimidating 60-year-old, because at the door
No.
it doesn't really seem like a good fit.
Well, I guess for this establishment, it makes sense. But the fights don't break out. It's just really to card people and just to watch the capacity. That's really all it is for. But I don't know how he's going to handle that situation, because it's pretty new for him. And he has another job as well. But, I mean, he's been there since day one.
Yeah.
And people that still go there to this day go there to see him at the bar, not to wave at him at the door.
They had to have lost some guests over that.
I don't know what's going to happen, but it's in their best interest to keep that man behind the bar at least a couple times a week.
Yeah, at least at like an opening capacity. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about that move.
Yeah. So it popped up in my head since we were talking about it, and I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah, I'd love to hear. Yeah, I worked with a woman that basically in my hometown, which is where I got my start in the service industry. Sometimes I think about her, I'm like, I don't think I'm that far from her age now than she was then. But yeah, I think she was in her 50s when I was working with her. And we all just kind of considered her mom. And she was a very motherly person, so she loved that. We were all like her kind of bar children.
Yeah.
And that worked for her, and we love her for that. And I'm in contact with her to this day just because she was amazing at that. But I don't think that life's for me, you know?
Yep. So you think you'll continue to do management and be in the industry, and then you'll retire as a manager? Do you think is that the goal, or?
I think the goal at this point is to go a little bit higher in the hierarchy and do kind of more of a beverage director kind of thing.
Okay.
Where I'm doing what I'm doing now with my bar, putting a leader in place that kind of takes care of the day-to-day and kind of organizes them, but also like makes all the decisions for buying and costing and menu changes and stuff like that. Do that not only there, but at several spots.
Yeah.
That's the current focus.
Okay. You ever thought about doing hotels?
I worked a hotel once.
Me too. I didn't like it.
In-room dining's not fun.
No.
I didn't like it.
Yeah.
It was in the domain too, which isn't my jam.
No. Yeah, I was at a nice hotel bar downtown in Austin, but no, not for me.
Mm-hmm.
The corporate world is really just not for me.
Yeah, but like,
For
no
you.
shade to anyone,
Yeah.
but a lot of like what makes people money now is once you make it a successful restaurant, you do another one and you do another one, and what starts as this amazing little local spot gets corporate quick.
Mm-hmm.
And again, no shade to them. That's how you make money. That's how you stay alive. That's how you stay relevant. But you attach yourself to these like local awesome projects, and then a few years goes by, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
just because I don't work for Denny's doesn't mean this isn't getting corporate. This is where it starts.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about one of these stories you're going to talk about. Where did this begin?
I'm originally from you don't need my whole backstory, but
If you want to tell it.
from I'll say I'm from Flagstaff, Arizona.
Okay.
The bar scene there is small. The town is, I don't know if you've been.
Mm-mm. I've heard though.
It's lovely if you get the chance. If you're ever going to the Grand Canyon, it's right by it.
Okay.
Town is, when I left, at least around 70,000 people, and that oscillates wildly depending on if the college is in or out. So as soon as the students leave, you lose about 10,000 people.
Oh, wow.
And so small town, and then the entire like bar scene for the most part is located downtown. And within that downtown, I'm going to say about 6 blocks square. That's like kind of the whole thing. And that's your divey cool bars. That's your college bars. It's not big enough to have like districts like 6th Street and stuff like that.
Right.
It's just there's Maloney's, which had a sister bar on Dirty Six. I forget what it was called now. I'd have to like find if I found the cross streets, you'd be like, oh, okay, that place.
Yeah.
But like, so when you start bartending there, I've never considered myself like necessarily like a cool guy, but I'm fun.
I think you're cool.
Oh,
I think you're cool.
But I'm fun, I think. And I was young, and I started at this bar, and I became very quickly the bartender there who worked the most and the most popular shifts. And so in this small town, that's almost local celebrity,
Mm-hmm.
Through none of my own efforts, just because I'm there and bartenders have this undeserved popularity because everyone wants free or cheap shit off of them. But I loved it. And so, yeah, I was newly single and working this really popular bar. And I was basically one of, if not the main guy there. Again, if not for my own efforts, just, schedule wise, like I'm there Friday, I'm there Saturday, I'm there when it's busy.
Yeah.
You see me when you're out. And like bars go, and I'm not worried about calling anybody out because the bar has since closed, no fault of their own, but we miss it wildly. It was called Mia's. I hope it's okay to say since they're gone now.
Yeah, you're good.
It's called Mia's. Anybody who was there at the time loved it. Named after the dog of the man who owned it, who just fat pit bull mix that would just sit in the doorway, and you had to step over her, and she'd barely look up, and she was amazing. We loved Mia. But I was working with this guy, and him and I got along right away. Flagstaff's a bit of a hippie town, which is not my vibe. I was more into the metal scene, of which there was kind of none. And so what I was allowed to do is I worked Mondays as well, which is the slowest day. And he let me, and I am not the first person to think of this, there's been 800 of these, but he let me do what I called Metal Monday, and I thought I was so clever for calling it at the time, again, I've since found out that there's 9,000 Metal Mondays across the country or maybe the world. It was the only night I was allowed to play metal over the loudspeakers, and so I only played metal over the loudspeakers. And sometimes you'd get the hippies in, and they're like, "Hey, can you turn this down?" Or can we play? I don't even know a relevant band that they'd want to hear. Let's say Fish. Sure, Fish. And I'm like, no. This is
fucking Metal
Monday. Check out, here are the specials, and here's what this is. And it got a bit of a following. Not huge. Again, it's not a big town, and there aren't a lot of metalheads there, but it got a following. And this guy was newer, and he aligned with that. And I don't know. Him and I were very competitive with each other just because it was that kind of relationship. You know, dudes being assholes to each other.
Yeah.
And for instance, we, through just talking about music, found out who each other hated most as far as recording artists go. And then we would show up to whatever bar shift the other one was working. He worked at another bar as well, and spend all the money on the jukebox playing only that artist.
I've done some shit like that before.
Yeah. So
It's fun.
For me, it was Jimmy Buffett. And for him, it was, I don't even remember. I think it's that, I can't even think, guy with the talking guitar. Do you feel like I do? Anyway, it'll come to me after we're done.
You've got me thinking about Buffett, which my father actually listens and watches this. And because of him, I don't like Jimmy Buffett.
Well, no, nothing against your father, but but God, I hate that music.
Yeah, no, my father owned a tanning salon, and that shit would play on all 6 discs. I swear, it was just like Cheeseburger in Paradise and fucking Margaritaville, just like over and over and over again. I can't do it.
Again, I hope he did really well with that, but I feel like if you're a parrot head and you're having to go to a tanning salon, you're missing the boat. Literally, you should be getting real sun.
Yeah.
You should be getting your skin cancer naturally.
Yep.
If you're a parrot head, I don't know, but I can't stand the music, and he would do that to me, and I would do that to him, and it was fun, and he was, it was always pretty harmless. But one day, we drank a lot of beer back then. I don't really anymore. Like my second or third beer, I feel like I just ate a loaf of bread.
Yeah, you're full.
It's awful.
Is it any beer or like?
I mean, some do it quicker than others, but yeah, it's kind of any beer.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not getting buzzed off this because I'm a big guy and I have a high tolerance. So I'm not getting buzzed off this. I feel full. Sometimes I feel sleepy. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
I hate this. I love the taste. I hate this. So now it's like one beer here and there. But then it was probably more beer than water. It was beer and a shot.
Oh, yeah.
And I liked the cheap shit. Whatever you could throw at me that was, I suppose I was trying to be punk rock about it. I didn't like the corporate shit, know. So then it came up somehow. I don't remember how. We started talking shit about our own ability to change and stick with something, and somehow Budweiser came up. And we started like talking about, I could switch over to Budweiser, no problem. We're drinking not Old Milwaukee. Yeah, Old Milwaukee, not Milwaukee's best. We're drinking like Stroh's and anything in a can, Olympia, anything in a can that we didn't think was too corporate because, we're not sellouts, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I can look back at that idiot and be like, image was a little too important, even when I'm like drinking a shitty beer.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I get it.
It's a college town. I had served so many bros that wanted a Bud Light. That stuff sucks. Stroh's or Hams.
Hams is delicious.
Hams is great.
It's delicious.
I will still run. That is one of the exceptions I will make. I will still run full speed at a Hams.
It's amazing.
Yeah. I haven't seen a Stroh's. I probably do the same thing. But yeah, and somehow we got into like, I could switch to Budweiser longer than you could. And he's like, well, what do you want to bet? I'm like, I was newly single. I had 2 jobs because I was supporting the ex. And I decided I liked that money, so I kept it. I think my rent was like, I don't know, like $400 for a 1-bedroom. Like, I had money, and I was newly single, and I was having so much fun. And so I was like, let's bet $400. Let's bet $500. And this guy doesn't have the good shifts and is like bar backing sometimes. And he's wanting to like kind of move out of town, and he's trying to save in general is what I'm trying to say. So he's shying away from that. And I feel like an asshole for like, I'm not trying to flash my money around, but I was trying to make it interesting. So I backed off. I figured this is never happening. This is another one of those dumb conversations and nothing's going to happen. And about a half hour later, he comes at me from somewhere. We weren't even hanging out in the bar. We were across this huge bar from each other. And he beelines it for me. And he's like, the loser has to get a tattoo of Clint Howard. I don't know if you know who Clint Howard is. He's not a good looking man.
No.
And in that moment, I was feeling it. So I went, all right. And it started that evening. And we went for a long time. And people were cool about it. They got really excited about it, but they didn't try to trick us. They just, every time I'm in a bar, they're like looking at what I'm ordering. Are you still at it? Like, Flagstaff has great breweries. I'm suddenly not drinking any of the good beer there. Well, it has good brewery. I won't name any names. Some of it's not very good. But I haven't lived there since 2010. Maybe that's all changed. But with the amount of beer that we drank, switching to Budweiser, and the rules were strict. It was like you had to do Budweiser in a can. No, Budweiser in a bottle. If they didn't have the bottle, you could do the can. If they didn't have the can, you could do the aluminum bottle.
Okay.
Is that still a thing?
I don't know.
You remember those?
Oh, yeah. I know Bud Light was the big one with the aluminum.
Yeah. Bud and Bud Light were big. And then they found out later that like they had messages on. I'm very, very familiar with these now because this competition went on for like 4 months, I think. And so now I know that those aluminum bottles have 4 times the amount of aluminum that a can does. And for that reason, on the side, they print, hey, please recycle. So they did their part. Like, we're going to use way too much aluminum on this, but we're going to put it on you to do the right thing here. Right. And yeah, so Budweiser everywhere it went, all the time. Bud Light, Bud Ice, maybe they still had at the time. Yeah, and if I went to a party and they didn't have that, I had to go make a run. So
it had to be a Bud product, either way.
Yeah, and none of the fun stuff that technically Budweiser owned counted, because like Czech Var was like a cool Czech skunky beer that is technically theirs, and I think there's another story there about how they link up, but yeah, that wasn't allowed.
Okay, so it just had to be Bud and Bud only,
which I hated.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you did that.
And I'm an expert now of how I now know that I like it the best out of the aluminum bottle. Mm-hmm. It tastes better.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I've done extensive testing, much to my chagrin.
Yep.
So then it came to be my birthday, and this had just ramped up so much. I think it was my 28th birthday, so this would have been 2009. And it was surprising me at the time, but now that I know the business, it's not surprising at all. I should have guessed this. You go to a distributor and you ask for like promotional materials, they're going to load you up. Mm-hmm. They give you all the like, blow up surfboards and like streamers, and we knew this bar that I was celebrating at well enough that they let me go in and decorate ahead of time. My friends, every good birthday I've ever had is because my friends made the effort to make it so. So they backtrack a little bit for the July 4th. My birthday is July 14th. July 4th parade. There was some Christian group that had a float, and they decided to basically crucify some young dude in the back of a truck. So like he's on the cross dressed as Jesus in the back of a truck at like a 45-degree angle, so he's not actually like dying, I guess, and it says, "This blood's for you." And so my friend took that idea. I wish I still had one of these. She took that idea. She contacted someone that works in visual arts, and he made an iron-on, and they made T-shirts for everyone. They didn't tell me about any of this. They made T-shirts for everyone of Jesus being crucified with my head on him, smiling, just, and he's got a bud in his hand. There's a bunch of empties around the base of the cross, and it says, "This bud's for you." And everyone's wearing them when I show up. And they also have made temporary tattoos of Clint Howard for everyone to wear. And it was this thing, and I've never had so much Budweiser bought for me in my life, because usually on your birthday, they're like, "What do you want?" But they all know what I'm allowed to drink. So they just showed up. And my table is just full. My parents came. And if you knew my parents are lovely, really nice, awesome people, but they're not bar people. They didn't really approve of how much time I spent in bars. And so they're there, and they're having a good time. It's karaoke night, so we're just living it up and having such a good time. And my sister buys around, and before I know it, I'm distributing all the drinks to everybody. And I don't know about you, but when I'm like social in a bar, I usually have a drink in my hand, and you just kind of casually.
Yeah.
And before I know it, I'm drinking from somebody else's beer that wasn't my own. And it's a Stroh's or something like that. And yeah, the room just stops. And like, I'm just like, and it was perfect because it was my birthday and everyone was only buying me Budweiser, and the floodgates are open. Like, what do you want? What do you want? And that's when I realized that bar has a terrible beer selection, but like, still I was free.
Yeah.
And so then I had to go get the tattoo.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh man.
Yep. So I contacted a friend of mine who's like one of the best artists there. He doesn't really do portraits, but he got into it for whatever reason. And I don't know why, but I decided that he was going to have like old Catholic imagery. He's going to have like that halo as well. We found this old, like, what's it called? Like the headshot. So like an old headshot of Clint Howard, and did that and put like the halo around it. And that's what it was. And I don't know why I was really leaning into this. I really was stoked. And rather than hiding it away and making it small, it's about palm size, a little bit bigger, and it's right here.
Good for you. You did it right. I mean, wear it proud.
So, you know, it's definitely my sense of humor. It's definitely like, it's honestly been even a buffer in my dating life of like, do you think this is funny?
Yeah.
Can you be with me when my shirt's off and you see this? No? Then It never really came down to that specifically, but I definitely dated one woman who like would put her hand on it. Just like, he's staring at me.
Oh man. So the wife likes it, or she approves?
She does.
Okay.
She's an amazing, very put together person. She's a teacher. We met when she was bartending, and I was bartending at the same spot, but that's not her. Right. You know, she doesn't spend a lot of time in bars like I did. You know, when I met her, she was like 22, 23, so there was more of that. But the general, like, the general, like, being stupid in bars and the stories, if they're happening recently, she's not interested. But because this is before I met her in a different town, she's all about it. And like, we kind of talk about him like he's a member of the family, you know? It's just like, She'll just be like, Clint's staring at me. It was, I don't know. I love, that's what I miss about the old days of the service industry. It's like getting in stupid shit like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Later on, moving here, I don't know what year it was. Probably 2012. Austin used to do this thing called Austin's Worst Tattoo Competition. And I decided to compete. It's done well, but why would you want that? And I got second place. But the whole thing, it was like, do you know the term? You know the term crust punk?
No.
There's a whole group of people. You've seen them. Crust punk is like a part of punk where it goes so far to the we're not going to bathe.
Okay. Yeah.
We're going to wear the same shit all the time. If teeth fall out, so be it.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Yeah, I've seen it and smelled that before.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
They end up getting into trains for some reason, sometimes to hop and go other places. I've had a lot of crust punk friends, and the stick and poke tattoo thing is very big right now. But that's kind of where it started. Is these kids? Oh, sorry, I hit your camera.
Oh, you're good.
Is these kids not having any money for tattoos, but wanting them, and so just giving them to each other. And so that's mostly what this competition is. All these crust punks, and that's fun. And I knew most of them from where I was bartending at the time. But the problem is the whole thing was sponsored by Sailor Jerry Rum, and as such, the bar was open. You could buy whatever you wanted, but Sailor Jerry Rum is free. And none of us wanted Sailor Jerry Rum, but the whole nature of the crust punk is they don't have any money. So just wasted, gross, stinky kids getting on stage and like showing these tattoos. And mine was one of the only ones that was like well done. I think that's why I got second place. One guy, like a lot of them were people I knew, and one guy whips out his junk on stage. You don't want me to mention local places?
You're fine. Go ahead.
This is at Spider House.
Okay.
Or whatever that like kind of room is to the side.
Yeah.
And he's on stage and he whips it all out because he's got 666 on, I beat that guy, so that's cool. One of the judges.
That's a win in itself.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
I knew him and didn't know that about him until he showed me on stage. This was a friend of mine that I was chatting with and was one of my regulars. And then one of the judges, apparently for whatever reason, had Clint Howard's phone number. And he's like, you need to call him on stage. And I'm drunk at this point, but even then I'm like, there's no way. I'm not putting this man. No. But I took the number because I thought it was such a novelty to have this at this point. And just one of those days, it doesn't happen to me so much anymore, but sometimes when you go out a bunch, first thing you do in the morning is check your text messages. Like, what the shit did I send to people last night? And one night, I sent Clint Howard a picture of it, and even ended the text with a phrase that I don't think I've ever said in my life, which was like much love. Which I'm like, what? Much love? Like, he must have immediately changed his phone number, if that was his at all.
It could have been worse.
Yeah. It could have been way worse, but I don't know. I look back and that's, there's a lot of scary moments we talk about, and a lot of moments where we did stuff that like could have gotten us hurt or in trouble, and that's definitely one where it was just like, that was stupid, and I'll probably tell my kids one day
definitely
of who this man is on my chest if they've never asked.
Who got first place? Do you remember the tattoo that got first place?
Yeah, It was a woman that none of hers were. You can look it up. If you look up Clint Howard tattoo, usually one of the first hits is me. I'm stone-faced because I guess they didn't like the idea that I love my tattoo. So I'm like lifting my shirt and just going, and they're like, no, I think they wanted to see some regret there. So you'll see that, and then you click on it, and I think it'll show everybody, including one of my friends and they talk about each of us, and one of my friends who got so drunk by the time she got on stage, they could barely understand what she was saying about her Bruce Willis tattoo from Last Boy Scout.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But the woman who won, she or they, if I'm taking cues of who this person might be, had just this random, I don't think any of them were stick and poke, but they might as well have been. They're just random ideas all over her body, and they're all small. And so hers kind of won as
a collective piece?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So they didn't get as many people joining as they wanted. So they're like, what else do you have that's stupid? So I ended up showing them my stupid tramp stamp as well. It's not as funny, and it doesn't really have a story except for, I thought that'd be funny.
Yeah.
But hers was like, do you know what precious moments are?
Yeah.
So she had like a precious moments tattoo. I don't remember what the kids were doing in it, but then right below it were some random like Fleetwood Mac lyrics. And then elsewhere, where you could see both of these, was just a random doll arm. Like you could see the drawing of like the part that would like pop into the rest of the doll. It's just a doll arm. I don't know. I think I was robbed, but she did have a strange collection.
I almost thought there was going to be a Teletubby involved in her tattoo, but
no, I think it was a little more classic than that. And I think it almost told a story of maybe I was religious at one point, and Fleetwood Mac showed me the way. I don't know. Maybe the witchiness of Stevie Nicks showed her the way,
maybe.
But now she's drunk on free crappy rum.
The only reason that you got robbed is because you didn't regret your tattoo, I think.
Honestly. I think so.
Honestly.
Yeah, she had this, she wasn't ashamed, but she was also like, yeah, I don't know.
This is what it is.
And with me, it was like,
yeah,
isn't this cool? Like when I showed the guy who was in the competition, I said he had moved away by the time I got the tattoo. And when I sent him the picture, he was like, dude, you kind of won the bet. I'm like, I think I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you went 3 months long. That's impressive.
Yeah.
It's very impressive.
With the amount that we consumed at that age, and in the age of not knowing who I texted the night before, and it stayed true, and people held me to it.
Yep.
It was,
I'm going to have to look it up because from everything you described, you did it right, man.
I think so.
Yeah. You didn't shy away and put it somewhere, and it's all small. Like you did it right.
Yeah. You gotta be proud of what you're doing, and like, you gotta own it. I feel, I can pull down and show you if you want to.
Yeah, man, go for it.
Okay.
If you want to.
It's faded at this point, but
it's great.
Thank you.
I love it.
That's Clint.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'll make sure the camera zooms in on that when we post this.
I love it.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, we'll stop here. I know that you've got a busy life ahead of you, so I do really appreciate you being here. And I know you do have more, so maybe you'll come back sometime and share some more with us.
Sure. Yeah.
Awesome, Nick. Well, thank you so much, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Cheers.